Hey there guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you a little update on some progress of the car that I haven't recorded. It's nothing major, just some small things. So I want to keep you guys in the loop. I just wanted to upload a video because I know it's been a while since my last video, so I want to keep the channel, progress going and everything. So first things first is, I got a new camera from my friend Brock. I'm using it right now. It's a little action camera. He also gave me a second camera, which is a little GoPro Black Cube. So I'm going to use that one of these days. But for now, we're just going to use this one. Tell me if you guys like the picture, because I can already tell it's clearer than my other camera. So to give it a little test, we're going to take some shots of the daily car. See how this camera does with that. And another good thing is, another cool bit of news, I got my first sponsorship. I am now sponsored by Mishimoto. So I applied for their sponsorship on their website. I linked my YouTube channel, my Facebook, and they took 2 days to go through all my photos and stuff, my videos, and they approved my sponsorship. So we're now sponsored by Mishimoto. Once I place my first order, we're going to go ahead and get a welcoming package from them. It's going to include some decals, a hoodie, and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. So the first sponsorship of my life, Mishimoto. Pretty cool. So I'm going to get some shots of this car, and then we're going to go back to the garage to get an update video. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I got the sweat on lock, big, yes. But Lindsay got the coffee, yes. Take bait for a walk-in, yes. My pocket's so good stuff for walking, yes. I think I got my Benjamin's quick walking, yes. The speaker shot is money when I'm talking, yes. Mirror wonder what telling me that I'm awesome, yes. Babe, 2 pins on the pins and then I lost them, yes.
One last thing before we go to the garage. If you guys would not mind, please check out my friend Alex's YouTube channel. I'll put a picture of his channel right here. I cannot pronounce his last name, or I would say his full name, so there's just a picture of his YouTube channel on there for you. He also has a turbo E46, and he has like 2 E30s, something like that. I think he has like 5 Beamers. So he's a pretty busy guy, and he has also good information on boosting E46 just as much as I do. So if you guys wouldn't mind, give him a like, maybe a subscribe or something. So one more time, here's a picture of his channel. So there you go, and I'll be right back once again. Okay, and here we are back at the garage. Now for some updates. Okay, since the last video, that was the wastegate install. Again, if you're new to the channel, please go back in time and watch those videos. So since then, I have gotten all my boost controller vacuum lines ran. And if you guys remember the last video, how I installed it was using a factory rear O2 sensor wire clip retainer. And that just snaps in there nicely. Very satisfying, I love that sound. But anyway, it's got some silicone hose, some high temperature resistant hose. Has a temperature rating of 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Even though it's high rated, I still did not want them laying on the inner fender well, like my original idea, because of heat soak from the turbo. So I have them up off of the fender well here. And I have, this one goes to the wastegate. This one will be off the turbocharger. So the one to wastegate just plumbs in and zip ties to that one right there. And that runs down behind the headlight. And then around the hose I have some wire conduit. See it down there? And then that's zip tied to the body. Now the reason for the conduit is for abrasion resistance, and then directly after that we have DEI brand heat sleeving, the same as the oil feed line, and then I have that attached to the ground wire for the engine. Reason being is because the ground wire, there's plenty of slop in it to, whenever the engine's torquing, you need to have some slack in your hoses if you run to the engine from the body. Because whenever the engine's moving, there has to be enough play there so you're not fraying the hoses. So I have that hose attached to the ground wire, then to the wastegate. I also got the fuel pressure regulator back installed to its original spot, which I wanted. Have all the new fuel lines ran. Those are also covered in wire conduit. Ran really nicely. And then they are attached, they run down underneath the intercooler piping. And then they are attached to the dipstick down here. You can't really see them, but they're both together. Held to the dipstick. I also got my 1-inch heater hose for the other control valve. That was a little bit of a pain because any hose that size, I don't care what it is, it's really hard to get any flex out of it. And that was a very weird angle. You can see the small kink in it, but that's not going to hinder any kind of performance, so that's good. If it was totally like collapsed shut, then yeah, I'd be worried about it. But there's still plenty of shape to that hose, so it's going to work properly. Also got my vacuum block installed right here. I was originally going to mount that to the top of the DME box, but I was worried about clearance reasons for the hood, so I ended up mounting it to the side of the DME box. So the left side, this is also silicone hosing, which is preferred for any kind of boosted application. It's a nice flexible hose, or any vacuum use in general. I highly recommend silicone hose, a good quality stuff, not just anything, you know. Try to get a hold of some decent stuff if you can. So anyway, the left side, that runs down underneath the brake master cylinder to the FPR, right there. And then I have that hose attached to the body down there. And now I found something cool at the parts store. I got some of these zip ties down here, and they have little body fasteners on the ends. See them? So there's already an existing hole in the body from the factory right down there. So I just stuck that into the body after putting an O-ring around it to make it a tighter fit. And then you put your hose in it and just zip tie it shut. And that holds it. You can make it out in there. It holds it nice to the body, nice and tight to the body. And then just wraps up nicely to the FPR. And then the right side hose is for the boost gauge. And this runs down to and hides in there. So then I'm also left with these extra ports in case I want to run a blow-off valve or anything in the future. And now how I'm going to get vacuum to this, as mentioned in my first ever turbo video on YouTube of my car, I spliced into the brake booster hose. I originally had this T facing outward, and that went to the blow-off valve. Now since I'm using this block, I just took the T and spun it backwards. I'm going to run hose off of that T into that nice little groove right there in the DME box, and then down to the vacuum port to power the vacuum accessories. Now, since this is a 1/2 inch and that's 3/8, I went ahead and ordered a new vacuum tee. It's black, so it's going to look better even. So it's a reducer. So the sides are a 1/2, and then this is going to be 3/8. So it's going to work nicely. Get some 3/8 silicone hose. Since it's so flexible, I'll get a nice tight bend of a 90, and then straight, and another 90 to the port. So that's going to work out really nice and clean on the side there. And then, since I'm not running a blow-off valve anymore, I have built this blow-off valve delete plate. Now, instead of just putting a plate on here, an idea popped in my head, and then I included this inflation valve in the middle. So everything could be assembled, and I could just take off this weatherproof cap, and then I can inject some compressed air into the system and check for boost leaks. So it's not only a delete plate, but it's functional. It's a boost leak tester port now. So that's pretty cool. Made this by hand out of 1/8 inch steel, then painted it black, and then just used some black Allen head bolts to mount it. So that was a cool little functional thing I built right there. Still haven't wrapped up the harness yet, because before I run the car, I'm going to double check and test this wire, make sure it is 5 volt for the Audi MAF. Also running the Audi RS4 MAF, as you've seen in my MAF installation video. Once again, if you're new to the channel and are interested in running this MAF into your boosted E46, go ahead and watch that video. And then also for the newcomers of this channel, also I'm running Porsche 911 GT2 fuel injectors. They're direct plug and play. There's also a video of that on my channel. Go check it out if you want. And then also, I am going to be ordering new coolant hoses for the turbo. Originally, I just used these, typical coolant lines. But I had AN hoses coming off of these, and after disassembling them, they were really slimy. So they were breaking down from heat. So these do get very hot, being right on the turbine there, right next to the turbine, and being part of the turbo in general. So I'm going to order some stainless steel Teflon hoses, which would come directly off the turbo, and they're 8 inches in diameter. So I'm going to have a nice 8-inch section of hose, and then I'm going to attach some silicone hose to it. because if I did the same thing and used these and put hose directly on those, I think they would just melt again. So we're going to have a nice length of hose and then some different hose. And now since you guys can actually see what I was talking about of how to water cool these turbos on these cars, as mentioned previously, this side is the block drain, which is in the side of the block obviously, and then this side is derived from the low radiator hose. This was also mentioned in my first ever turbo video. I spliced the low radiator hose with a coolant temp sensor coupler. See it in there? It's spliced into the little rad hose. I tap and drilled the center hole for M14 by 1.5 because that was the thread pitch of my barb here. This is a 1/2 inch barb, and then a copper washer to seal it. The reason why I drilled and tapped it was because the block drain has the same thread, and I bought a 2-pack of those, so I used them both. Worked out great. And then that side will run up and then eventually make its way to that port on the turbocharger. I'm currently awaiting the return of my custom turbo oil drain, which I made. Well, I'm having made. The way the CX Racing turbo manifold is angled, it's very hard to get a nice drain hose to run off this turbocharger and to run down to the time and cover oil pan without it melting prematurely or breaking down because it's so close to the exhaust flange. So what I did was I ended up using the supplied flange with the CX Racing turbo, and I cut off the barb. I'll put some pictures of it on here. So those pictures are what I made and have sent to my friend in Wisconsin to weld up for me. I had to custom cut angles of some aluminum tubing. So basically what I wanted to do was, ideally, I wanted to get a piece of hose to shoot directly in between the compressor housing and the exhaust flange. So what I found was 20 degrees was perfect. It comes right off the flange, 20-degree cut, and it shoots right in between that nice gap right there. And then off the 20-degree hose, I have a 25 and another 20. There's a few cuts in it. It took me 3 attempts to get it just right. So I mocked it all up and I taped it together for him, marked it with Sharpies, and I sent it to him in Wisconsin. His name is Francisco. He has a 2JZ swap to E46 and builds custom stuff for people. I also mentioned him in my interior video. I bought my A-pillar gauges off of him. So yeah, I want to get that back, and that's going to be a nice custom drain. It'll be nice away from the exhaust, and this should last me a nice long time. So that's going to be coming. And also, whenever you have a water-cooled turbo, you have to remember that Garrett themselves recommend the turbo center portion to be clocked, so that whenever the engine's off, you want coolant to still run through and drain. Because whenever the engine's off, this thing is going to sit here and heat soak and become very hot. And if coolant is pulled in here, it will bake and cause buildup. So they recommend you have the turbine housing, the center portion, clocked no more than 20 degrees, so the coolant can drain out while the engine's off. Reason why it's no more than 20 degrees is because you do not want to mess with the oil draining, since it's only gravity draining. So if you do anything more than 20 degrees, you are going to mess with the draining of the turbo, and that can cause, smoking problems and whatnot because it's not draining efficiently. So I have mine clocked just right. About right here is 12 o'clock, which is ideal for the feed and drain. But since it's water cooled, got to recuperate at least 20 degrees. So then we have, bam, about right there. So that's about 20 degrees, which is let the coolant drain out, and it's still going to drain oil nicely. So that solved all those problems. That was a headache getting that drain. That took me quite a couple of weeks, because I have work and everything. So got that all figured out finally. I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe not. But yeah, we've, got all the hoses ran to the wastegate and everything. And that little boost controller actually has an adjustment up to 30 PSI. So it's a very touchy little boost controller. I have it set very minimally right now, because I only want to run maybe 8 to 10 pounds of boost on this car. So yeah, I just love how I mounted this. I love it. It's nice, simple, whatever. And I cannot wait to start getting my goodies from Mishimoto, since we're sponsored by them now. We're going to run their oil cooler, and I'm going to eventually spend the money and get their intercooler. It's going to be cool seeing their insignia, their emblem on the upper and lower, the M and M, because that's their symbol, The only thing is they want you to install 2 of their decals on the car to see. Now, I'm a very simple person. I do not like to see a bunch of decals on cars, unless it's like a legit race car, track car. This is just a simple sedan, nothing crazy. So I really don't want to put Mishimoto stickers on the outside. So I might incorporate one in the engine bay somewhere, because they say you must have them installed to keep your sponsorship. Not really to keep your sponsorship, but they want to see you. They want to see you, you know, showing off that, hey, I'm using these products. And then I'm also in the future going to be simplifying this cooling system with a little bit of research and some looking at diagrams and stuff. I'm going to be deleting the stock expansion tank, and I'm going to run an oversized M3 E46 radiator, and we're going to have the filler neck right here instead of this. It's going to fill right here. I'm probably going to get some silicone hoses and just reuse these couplers and just make my own silicone hoses. And I'm going to run a Mishimoto universal little expansion tank for any residual, I can't say that word, any excess coolant so it can drain into it. Residual, there we go. So it's going to be a lot simplistic and a lot less problematic than this, because I don't trust these expansion tanks. I mean, if you maintain the car, they do last a long time. But since we're going to be running this car with boost and everything, it's going to be under stress. So I do want to upgrade the cooling system. And I'm going to probably get another product from Hopwood Motorsports. That's going to be their oil cooler cap. My original plan was to buy the one from Mike Dodge, his used one. But my friend Alex, who I mentioned to you guys earlier, freaking bought it off Mike before I could get the chance to. So can't be mad. You know, you got to pay to play, and it's a dog eat dog world. I can't say that. Dog eat dog world out there. Whoever gets to things first gets it. I didn't have the funds for it, so he got it. No problem. So we're going to be running the Hopwood Motorsports oil cooler cap. And I've seen people run 10AN lines right over this core support. They must clear the hood, because people do it. So we're probably going to do that. Going to shoot off here, and they're going to run off. Might cover this emblem a little, the sticker a little bit, which is okay. Or I just do my original idea and bring them through inside of here into the oil cooler. But that is something to worry about in the future. So yeah, that was a little bit of progress on the car since you guys seen the vehicle last. FPR and fuel lines are done. The vacuum block is ran. Waiting on that T-fitting. Pretty much all the vacuum lines are done. And then I'm going to, after I get my drain back, I want to get the clocking of this just right. And then I'm going to retighten these clocking bolts. And then snug up the drain. And I'm also going to buy proper drain hose, because it did get a little hard and brittle because it was so close to the turbo like I was mentioning earlier. So I found some hose. I think it's made by Garrett. Its purpose is actually for turbo drains. So it has a high heat resistance and it's oil resistant. It's like $8 a foot, but it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to get that turbo oil drain hose. And then we're going to worry about the clutch, ordering that. I'm going to order the DISA block-off plate. And then, yeah, then we're going to get the car back together. And we're going to see if we can put on a base tune and start tuning. So I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited to get that far. We made progress so far this year. That was my goal, to at least get a base tune this year on the car. And then shoot for the goal of 350 wheel, which would be very happy since this engine's high mileage. I won't be mad if it goes, because it's had a nice long life. She's been a loyal steed. So if the engine does go, which I don't think it is if I keep it at 10 psi, but whenever she gets tired and whatever, then we'll do a 3.0 swap, a B30 swap. Or since I have yet to actually build an engine, I really want to. So I'm probably going to, as long as I don't damage the block or anything, I'd like to take this guy apart and swap in the 3.0 rotating assembly, which is direct bolt-in, then a 3.0 cam. So it'd be like, you know, a cool little hybrid. Although they're basically the same engine, so I'll just basically be building a 3.0. It'd just be cool keeping the original block with the car. So I feel that's proper if you can do it. You know what I mean? It's just... Then I'm also going to be building a headlight intake for this side. I'm not going to have it in all the time, just some days. Whenever I'm in the mood, I'll have it in there. I went to the junkyard today, and they didn't have any freaking E46 sedans. They only had one E46, and it was a coupe. So where I'm from, these cars are kind of hard to find in a junkyard because... I mean, there's a bunch around here, but there's not that many in the junkyard for some reason. The last time I was there, though, I should have took the opportunity because there was one of these in the junkyard, same thing, a 323, and it had the headlights in the trunk already for me taken out. I should have bought them, but I didn't have the money back then. I was just kind of looking. I just go up there to look. I was just browsing. It's a nice place to browse. So anyway, I want to get a junk headlight, and the whole lens is going to be wrapped in probably a satin black. Then I'm going to have a nice big hole here for the intake to the turbo. I'm going to probably do a nice shape to go along with this triangle shape, whatever. Or I was also thinking about doing a configuration of 5 holes in a circle, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And then I'm going to once the lens is done and satin black wrapped, I'm going to install a Seems Legit Garage decal right here, which Mike Dodge sent to me with my last purchase. So it's just a little red decal that says Seems Legit Garage. I think it's going to be really nice. You know, I'm just trying to get you guys a picture in your head. It's going to be a satin black wrap lens with an intake right here, and then it's going to say Seems Legit Garage right here. Just, it's not huge or anything, just a nice little decal, probably about that big. This is to show off his brand because I like giving him business, get some recognition. But yeah, I'm super stoked about my sponsorship with Mishimoto. I feel somewhat accomplished about that. Hoping to get some more sponsorships. Never know, could happen. I'm trying to think of who else to apply for. Maybe Hopwood Motorsports from UK, if I do give them enough business. I'm going to be buying that, like I said, for the 10th time already. Be getting their clutch, the disc block-off plate, and now the oil cooler adapter cap. So maybe they'll, you know, give me a little bit of a sponsorship or shout-out, whatever. So yeah, that's the progress of this car so far, guys. Hey there, guys. That was it for today's video. There's just a small update of what has been done since the last video. Just some small things as you've seen. We're making progress. It's not the fastest, but we're getting somewhere. So yeah, I just want to keep you guys in the loop of everything that's been done so far. So yeah, until the next video, I'm going to keep working on this thing. I'll keep you guys updated. So please have a good day or good night, wherever you are from, and I will see you later.